What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Cafe and Views. Today we went to the Enigma and we got ourselves what is called the Sam. When you first get to Enigma Coffee, it's kind of a smaller shop that's right on the side of the road. There's a few tables outside that you can sit at, 2 chairs per table. It's pretty small. It's a nice little coffee shop that you can, if you're walking by, you could go to and get a little pick-me-up. I'm surprised that this good of a coffee, the Sam, came from Enigma. When you walk into the store, it's a little bit bigger than Coffee, but it's still small. It doesn't have a lot of room for people to be inside. Probably fit maybe 5 people max when they're ordering. Can't fit any more than that unless it'd be really crowded. They do a good job at advertising their coffees. I got the Sam because there was like a giant poster that said the Sam, and then it had the coffee. It listed what went into the coffee, and that really enticed me to get it. The menu is not as extensive as a lot of other coffee shops. That might be a good thing because they might only offer the best of the best coffees. They don't really offer just like the basics as much as the more complex coffees. It's still a nice little coffee shop. The Sam is an iced salted vanilla latte. First things first, we're talking about acidity. I'm getting more of like a citrus and a blueberry type of fruity note to it. For some reason, I can kind of detect a little bit of a flowery note. This coffee is definitely plenty sweet. There's no sour notes to it at all. Nothing about it is bitter. Because it's a salted caramel, it's got that real strong sweetness to it. Kind of feels both lively and mellow at the same time. You're definitely tasting a lot of the sugars. For acidity, I'm gonna put this coffee at about a 4 out of 5. For aroma, this coffee is definitely giving off a good, nice, pleasant smell. It's not as potent as a lot of other coffees are, but the smell is there and it is really good. It is better than most of the coffees that I've had. The saltiness in the coffee is definitely attracting me to keep going in, to keep smelling it. All the individual ingredients that went into this coffee are combining in a way that makes me want to keep smelling it and actually makes me want to drink the coffee even more. I'm getting a strong, nutty, chocolatey vibe to it because of the salted caramel. The more you lean into it, the better smell you're gonna get. So from this far away, you're not really gonna get much, but when you do, it actually smells a whole lot better. I'm getting a whole burst of different flavors and ingredients in here. It's not just one smell where all the ingredients are combined. If you read off what goes into this coffee and you keep smelling it, you can pick off all those small little ingredients. For aroma, because you have to lean into it quite a bit, I'm gonna give aroma about a 3.5 out of 5. Next up is flavor. Being balanced, it's not really balanced in a way that all the ingredients kind of combine into one. I like when things aren't balanced because you can detect each individual ingredient and each flavor that went into it. So it makes you think more. It's more of like a complexity in the coffee. And when you're enjoying it, you can kind of play around with the coffee in a way. You can kind of ask yourself what went into the coffee as opposed to like a plain Jane coffee where it's just one ingredient, or espresso and coffee where it's just like simple bitter coffee and it's a one and done deal. This coffee makes you think a whole lot more and kind of picks your brain. The only flavor that's real prominent, the salty caramel that went into it. Because it has oat milk in it, it kind of changes the taste as opposed to having almond milk or 2% or silk milk or any of that. The oat milk kind of changes the vibe. The salted caramel from this coffee is enhancing the flavor. When I'm drinking the coffee and I'm smelling it, I can get a stronger flavor from that. It's giving me good vibes. I want to drink this coffee when I'm relaxing, when I'm trying to enjoy the views, when I'm just touring West LA. This coffee is definitely memorable. Not forget this coffee as soon as you finish drinking it. You're gonna think to yourself, do you want to make this specific coffee part of your rotation? Do you want to make it your everyday coffee? Make you think, what do you want to do with this coffee? Because you're definitely going to include it in your rotation, but you have to decide how often are you going to be drinking the coffee. For flavor, I'm going to put this at a 4.5 out of 5. Next up is going to be body. This coffee definitely has a milkshake-like consistency. It's my favorite type. I like when a coffee is rich and thick and it weighs down your tongue. It provides like a nice texture. It's not waterness. It doesn't feel like water when it's in your mouth. It's pretty complex. It's like if you're eating food and there's different textures, there's different mouthfeels, this coffee definitely does that. It's not just liquid in your mouth. It just adds more dimensions. Typical coffee might be like 1 or 2 dimensional. This is definitely 3-dimensional. You're definitely taking into account the weight, texture, the feeling of it. Definitely coats your tongue. It sticks around for a long time. For body, I'm gonna give this coffee a 5 out of 5. Next up is gonna be sweetness. Because this coffee is salted, you would think that it would take away from the sweetness of the coffee, but it does the actual opposite of that. It enhances the caramel in the coffee. The saltiness adds to the vanilla. It enhances the sweetness of the vanilla. You can definitely detect that the vanilla extract or the vanilla bean is fresh. It hasn't been sitting for a long time. For sweetness, I'm gonna put out a 4.5 out of 5. For aftertaste, it hugs your mouth, it coats it, it kind of wants to be there. It wants to stick around, it wants to stay. It doesn't want to just come and go. Like bitter coffees, it dries out your mouth. This coffee keeps it coated, it keeps it nice and wet, real smooth. Because it's rich, it glides down your throat. It's real smooth, there's no jagged edges, it's not rough at all. It's like a perfect circle, it's not a square or a triangle. It leaves a good trail, nice and straight, perfect. It makes you want to keep walking down that trail. It's salty, but it's also sweet from the chocolate, so it kind of combines in a nice way. As you're drinking this coffee and smelling it, it keeps attracting you for more. It keeps basically telling you to drink the coffee. For aftertaste, I'm going to put this coffee out of 4 out of 5. For complexity, because it's got saltiness, because it's got vanilla, because it's got oat milk in it, this coffee is definitely complex. The looks, it's not as complex as other coffees might be, but that's fine because sometimes you're not actually looking at the look of the coffee. It complements it, but it's not something that you're really looking for when you're going to buy a coffee. You're more so looking for the aroma, for the body, and for the flavors, that kind of trifecta. The looks is kind of a luxury in a way, so it's not something that you're really looking for because it's not going to add to the coffee when you're drinking it. It's not going to, the look of the coffee is not going to enhance the flavor and aroma, so it's not really needed. But the taste, it's definitely complex. It definitely makes you think. If you didn't know what went into this coffee, just drinking it would make you think exactly what went into it, what kind of milk, what kind of coffee, if there was any extra additives to it. The saltiness is more prominent, but it all kind of combines in a way where you're still enjoying it and you're still able to pick off other ingredients. You're still getting that nice sweetness from the beginning to the end. Nothing changes. It's more salty in the beginning because towards the end, it coats your mouth and then the flavors start coming out more. In the beginning, it's more salty, but you're still getting the flavors. So at the end, you're getting the flavors, but a little bit more pronounced. For complexity, I'm gonna put this coffee at a 4.5 out of 5. For balance, the saltiness does stick out, but if you were to focus on a specific ingredient that doesn't stick out as much, you would then think that that ingredient sticks out the most. If I'm drinking this coffee and I'm thinking vanilla, I'm gonna be tasting more vanilla than saltiness or the oat milk. If I'm thinking about the oat milk, that's going to be more pronounced. So if you're not thinking about anything, the saltiness in the coffee is going to be the most pronounced. It's still pretty smooth, it's consistent, it does the same thing when you're drinking in the beginning to the end. There's no high or low peaks, it's pretty evened out. When you're drinking the coffee, it's smooth in the beginning. When it's in your mouth, it's smooth when it goes down, and then the aftertaste is smooth as well. It's not rough at any point when you're drinking it. For balance, I'm gonna put this coffee at about a 3.5 out of 5. Let's talk about forgiveness. You don't need to forgive this coffee. Every point that I gave is justified. There's nothing that needs to be fixed. The body doesn't need to help out the aftertaste, and aftertaste doesn't need to help out the flavor, and so and so. Everything is where it should be. And I can't really think of anything that would improve the coffee. Maybe like individual ingredients if they were more pronounced or if they were changed. What the coffee does is perfect in and of itself. For forgiveness, I'm gonna put this coffee at a 4 out of 5. Lastly, versatility. Because this coffee has so many high points and not a lot of low points, I'm not gonna put it as versatile as a typical sour or bitter coffee might be. This coffee is something that you would want to enjoy when you're relaxing or in an environment like this. Somewhere where you could be alone, enjoy a coffee. For versatility, I'm going to put this coffee at a 3.5 out of 5. All in all, the Sam from Enigma Coffee got a 41 out of 50 or 82% out of 100. This is definitely one of the highest scores that I've given in either season 1 of Koreatown or season 2 of What's Happening. Thank you so much for watching Cafe and Views. Tune in next week to see where we're going next and if we can get a high score like the Sam from Enigma Coffee. Peace.